Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the live studios. And this live studio has become something else. It's more than live. It's transcendental. What's going on here? They just spread flower petals from my door to here. You know, Hannah's the culprit. And I say that out of love and affection, but the truth is that it's very difficult to receive service from others as a service. Because normally when we take service from others, it changes us in ways that shouldn't. We become either proud or we become attached to fame and glory and profit and adoration and distinction and all those things. But Srila Prabhupada, by his infinite kindness and compassion and glories, has taught us how to receive service as a service to him. And this is a rare state of consciousness because that's our constitutional position. So I was just talking to Eduardo and telling him how, I haven't had any earned income for 50 years. Now just put that into your thinking cap. No earned income for 50 years. I haven't had a job. No one's given me any money. I've never asked for any money. This didn't come out of thin air. I didn't conjure it up out of a tree or something. It actually, I'm going to Dallas, then I'm going to go to the UK, then I'm going to go to Delhi, then I'm going to go to Govardhan, then I'm going to come back and be right back here with you all, and not on my dime. How is that possible? But when you do this for as long as I've been doing it, it becomes so clear what's going on, that if I give myself to helping others, if I serve the Lord and my spiritual master as a service, take service and give the results of that service to Krishna exclusively, then it doesn't touch me. I mean, it does touch me in very deep transcendental ways, but it doesn't entangle me in those other kind of complexities in life that entangle most people. Everyone, including myself. That's why I'm in the material world. But this is our constitutional position. We want to serve. From the time we get old enough to be able to do something, we're always running over to a mother or father to help do something. Even the kids in this movement, we start little things like in the morning, the Tulsi Puja, they come and they want to help take the table for Tulsi, isn't it? And they want to do things, they want to play the kartals, and they jump up and down in the kirtan. It's natural. It's actually in us. It's our innate nature. It's in our innate position to serve. And so, Hare Krishna. It's so sweet and it's so tasty. It's beyond words, but at the same time, Krishna gives us the words to describe it partially enough that others can understand it. And that's a great gift. And we're trying to give this gift to others. And I wouldn't go so far as to say I just stumbled onto it, because I've been reading these books for a very long time, for 46 years. And I've always loved reading them out loud, but only until recently have I discovered this reading out loud every day to others, every single day. And who was it? Rati Manjari, she's probably watching right now. She said, because you do this day after day after day after day, it becomes real to her. It becomes real. It goes in and it changes the heart, and it or uncovers the natural gift that we have as souls in human body to actually serve by helping others come out of material illusion, material suffering, material anxiety, and replace that anxiety. Not replace it, it's already there. It's already there, just uncover it. And, Hare Krishna. I hope I would see you again. Hare Krishna. Haribo. Here, there's your chair right there. Although if Sarva comes, he's going to want... Come over here and sit here. Yeah, because then that'll make more room on the floor. Yeah. You can sit either one. Either one. Hare Krishna. What was your name again?
Sandy.
Sandy. Very nice to meet you. Very nice. Okay. So now that I got all that out of my system, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for these garlands and the flowers and your loving faces and smiles and hearts. And there's something really, really important happening here. You know, we're going to diversify this community. That's what's happening. You know, and I don't know if you saw it. Matt, he just shaved his head. He looks gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. He walked in the door and I looked at him, my sequin went, woo, woo, woo. And I looked at him and I said, I wasn't going to ask. And he said, I know. So, first test, passed. Not that everybody has to shave their head, but it was very meaningful. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. All I can give you back is what I've been giving you. So, that's the nature of this place and nature of this relationship. So, thank you very much for giving me this taste. It's all because of you. Hare Krishna. Okay. We're coming to the end of the 7th chapter. How many more verses in the 7th chapter? Quite a few. Huh? 14 more. So we can finish. We're going to finish the 7th chapter tonight. Okay. But first let's honor the Bhagavatam and Sanatana Goswami, who composed this most beautiful prayer to the Bhagavatam to give us entry into what we're doing in a very nice way. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It's a prayer glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvadasa Vasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Sadhuta dayin atini chochatakada hanamunchikadachin mam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're on verse what? 38. This chapter has been particularly sweet because it's the first chapter which describes the incarnations of Krishna. The incarnations of Krishna are unlimited. They come into the material world like waves of a river. Nobody can count the waves of the river. 39? Yes, that's right, 39. Did we read about Kalki? We did. No. I think this is about Kalki. Oh, no, we did. This was Buddha. We haven't read about Kalki. We're going to read about Kalki now. Yes. This is where we left. 39. No, 38. 38. Please, please. So, like I said, these incarnations that are being described are the most prominent ones and have been chosen for the reason that they come at very crucial moments in the history of the universe when very significant changes are needed in human society. And right now, Lord Chaitanya came only 500 years ago, and he is the Yuga avatar. He is the manifestation of the Lord who came to straighten out the situation on the earth. Because we're in the Kali Yuga and because he's acting as a devotee of the Lord, not as the Lord himself, although he is the Lord himself, it happens differently. It doesn't happen in one quick hit. It will come like a tsunami, and that's what's happening on the earth. None of the world. When I first heard about Krishna, I had never heard about Krishna before. That was early 1972. When I was growing up in the 50s in America, nobody knew about Krishna. Nobody heard. Only some scholars, some obscure scholars in their ivory towers that were studying the, Vedic literatures as some, academic exercise. But the general mass of people had no idea. And now, everybody in the world knows about Krishna. Just by one person, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his empowered representative, Srila Prabhupada. First empowered representative of Krishna to come to the Western world. There were Bhagavad Gitas all over, different translations, but not one person became a pure devotee of Krishna. Even though in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto, become my devotee. That's what he's saying over and over and over again. And yet no one was becoming a devotee. Because you need to come in contact with a pure devotee to become a devotee. That's a fact. So, we're hearing the essence of the incarnations of the Lord. And now we've come to the last one. Text 38, chapter 7, canto 2. Thereafter, at the end of the Kali Yuga, when there exists 39? We're supposed to be on 39?
She says 39, but I was doing this yesterday.
Okay,
So
we'll...
underline like 39 several lines so that all.
So probably 39 is it, but we're going to hear 38 again because it fits right into what I was saying just now. Thereafter, at the end of Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residences of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred, yes, we did do this yesterday, yes, to the hands of ministers elected from the low-born Shudra class or less than them, and when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as the supreme chastiser. Purport. So he's the supreme lover and he's the supreme chastiser. Both. The symptoms... Whoa. Brian. Huh? Mike.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Brian. Yeah, Brian. Yes. Got you mixed up with Brian. Sorry, Mike. Sorry. But really nice to see you.
It was nice to see you guys.
Thank you. Very pleasant. As such, purport. The symptoms of the worst conditions of the material world at the last stage of this age, called Kali Yuga, are stated herein. The summoned substance of such conditions is godlessness. Even the so-called saints and higher castes of the social orders, generally known as the Dvijajanas, or the twice-born, will become atheists. As such, all of them will practically forget even the holy name of the Lord, and what to speak of his activities. The higher castes of society, namely the intelligent class of men guiding the destinies of the social orders, the administrative class of men guiding the law and order of the society, and the productive class of men guiding the economic development of the society, must all be properly well versed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually his name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and personalities. The saints in the higher castes or orders of the society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God, or tattva jnana, and not by any kind of birthright or bodily designations. Such designations, without any knowledge of the science of God and practical knowledge of devotional service, are considered to be all decorations of dead bodies. And when there is too much inflation of these decorated dead bodies in society, there develop so many anomalies in the progressive, peaceful life of the human being. Because of the lack of training or culture in the upper section of the social orders, they are no more to be designated as the Dvijajanas, or the twice-born. The significance of being twice-born has been explained in many places in this great literature. And again, one is reminded herewith that birth executed by the sex life of the father and the mother is called animal birth. But such animal birth and progress of life on the animal principles of eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating, without any scientific culture of spiritual life, is called the Shudra life, or to be more explicit, the uncultured life of the lower class of men. It is stated herein that the governmental power of society in Kali Yuga will be passed over to the uncultured, godless laborer classes of men, and thus the Nridevas, or the ministers of the government, will be Vrishalas, or the uncultured lower class men of society. No one can expect any peace and prosperity in human society full of uncultured lower classes of men. The symptoms of such uncultured social animals are already in vogue, and it is the duty of the leaders of men to take note of it and to try to reform the social order by introducing the principles of twice-born men trained in the science of God consciousness. This can be done by expanding the culture of Srimad-Bhagavatam all over the world. In the degraded condition of human society, the Lord incarnates as the cultic avatar and kills all the demons without mercy. So what we're experiencing here, right now in this room tonight, just look around and check it out and see what a diverse group of people is sitting in this room right now. Huh? And there's an atmosphere here that is so sweet and so loving and so cultured and so accommodating and so enlivening spiritually, that this what it says here, the symptoms of such uncultured social animals are already in vogue. And it is a duty. Now we've got a whole situation, even in America, where the leaders are duking it out. They're just duking it out, calling each other bad names and doing anything that they can do to degrade the other persons who are thinking ill of them. And it's going on and it's going deeper and deeper into society, where this atmosphere that we are experiencing here today, and we have been experiencing over the last 3 months since we've been doing this every day here, is actually building. It's the building blocks. It's the beginning of something very profound that's happening in the world today. It's the influence of Lord Chaitanya's association, the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, and the chanting of the Srimad-Bhagavatam from the lips of a pure devotee. And I don't mean me, I mean Srila Prabhupada, because I'm reading directly his words, and that's practically all I'm doing, and repeating his words that he taught to me. So therefore it says here, it is the duty of the leaders of men, and there are leaders of men and women in this room right now, to take note of it and try to reform the social order by introducing the principles of twice-born men trained in the science of God consciousness. And that is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, to train people from all walks of life in the principles of science of God consciousness, and then take it with you and cultivate it by coming here regularly. And even if you can't hear coming here regularly, cultivate it, read these books, and live by their principles, and be the beacons in all the communities of the world to spread this loving devotional service, which is what we're all hankering for. We're all hankering for peace, we're all hankering for prosperity, we're all hankering for these things, but we're being taught just the opposite, to hate other people based on some differences, whatever they may be. Nationality, gender, religion, race, etc., etc. So this is the end of Kali Yuga, what's been discussed here. This is 427,000 years from now. So just put this into your intelligence and remember what it was like 50 years ago. Well, some of you are not over 50 years old. I can remember, we got 1, 2, not too many. How many were over 50? Very good. That means the rest of you are the new blood, the transfusion into this society that is needed to spread it and perpetuate it so that it will grow and grow and grow. And it's going to happen. It's just a matter, and somebody's going to get the credit. Krishna gives the credit to somebody. He gave the credit to Arjuna, even though he was doing it all. You know, at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, when the whole thing was said and done, and there were only the 5 Pandavas and a few others of the side of the Pandavas, Yudhishthira and Krishna, left standing out of 640 million men in 18 days. Yeah. This was the biggest battle ever to happen on the earth. So at the end, Arjuna was overwhelmed because he saw what Krishna had done, and he was like, my Lord, please, because he was driving Arjuna's chariot. He made a vow not to fight. Only once did he break the vow, just to uphold the vow of his devotee, who made a vow that he was going to cause him to fight, or else the Pandavas would die. So Krishna said, okay, I'll break mine so that the others can have theirs. So his devotee can have his. That's his nature. That's his nature. He wants to give the credit to his devotees. Anyway, so then at the end, Arjuna says, oh, my Lord, please, and Arjuna and Krishna said, no, you get off first. He said, I can't go before you. And Krishna looked at him and said, get off the chariot. And so as soon as Arjuna got off the chariot, Krishna put one foot on the ground. As soon as his other foot left the chariot went poof, into ashes. Because they had taken so many weapons, and Krishna had absorbed them all. And then Arjuna went, oh, I see who actually did this. But Krishna's giving him all the credit. So that's what Krishna wants. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants. He wants to give us the credit. And all we have to do in the Kali Yuga, we don't have to fight. We don't have to get out weapons and, nuke it out, duke it out, whatever it is. We just have to hear and chant and hear and learn and repeat and become ourselves happy. And that will broadcast wherever we go, automatically, without you trying to do anything else. So that's what, but then Kalki comes at the end when there's only a few of us left. And then he just says, okay, enough's enough. You've all graduated and you've become eligible to be killed by me, because when he kills them, they become liberated. It's inconceivable, but that's what happens. And the ones that are left, they leave the earth alone. They stop polluting it. They stop all these hellish, poisonous, destructive things they're doing to the earth and to each other. They just stop. And by God's grace, it heals. I don't know what you noticed, but I don't have my thing on tonight, And just a month and a half ago, it was this big, black and blue from here to here, looking not like my arm at all, and we just left it alone, basically. I mean, he did something, the surgeon did something, but he just did a little thing. But the real thing was done by Krishna. And any of us know it. You cut, leave it, just keep watching it, and it just heals. So the earth is like that. The earth's a living being. And if you just leave it alone, it will, now they have this whole trend towards permaculture, agriculture. We have our Rishabdev, who's always usually here every night, but he's over there doing a lot of work, doing permaculture, agriculture in our farm, and protecting just 3 cows, what to speak of. Nanda Maharaj had 900,000. What that would do, how opulent that would make you can't imagine. Anyway, so that's where we are. We're 5,000 years only into the Kali Yuga. And there's 427,000 more years left. We got a lot of work cut out for us. And believe me, you don't want to be here in the 10,000 years when the effect of this movement has reduced to the point where it just degrades. It no longer uplifts like this. You don't want to be around. So become Krishna conscious. Make everyone else you meet Krishna conscious, and you'll go back to the spiritual world this lifetime. Promise. Prabhupada promised it, Lord Chaitanya promised it, and those words are as good as gold. Somebody has gold, it doesn't become Hindu gold, Christian gold, American gold, whatever gold. Gold is gold. Can't change the value of gold. They're trying by speculation and inflation and all these things, but everybody knows when it comes right down to it, and now they're talking about it. Better get gold, because all the currencies are going to go down someday, even if not in lifetime, someday. Okay, enough of that. Text 39. We just heard about Kalki, and he's going to come at the end of this age, and he's going to wipe everyone out who's godless, who is atheistic. Now it's like in vogue to be atheists. Text 39. At the beginning of the creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the 9 Prajapatis, the great sages who generate. Then, during the maintenance of the creation, there are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end, there is irreligion. And then Lord Shiva, and the atheists full of anger, and so on. All of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the supreme power, the Lord. Purport. The material world is created by the energy of the Lord, which is manifested in the beginning of the creation by the penance of Brahmaji, the first living being in the creation. And then there are the 9 Prajapatis, known as the great sages. In the stage when the creation is maintained, there are devotional service to Lord Vishnu, or factual religion, the different demigods, and the kings of different planets who maintain the world. At last, when the creation is preparing to wind up, there is the first principle of irreligion, then Lord Shiva, along with the atheists full of anger. But all of them are different manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadev, Shiva, are different incarnations of the different modes of material nature. Vishnu is the Lord of the mode of goodness, Brahma is the Lord of the mode of passion, and Shiva is the Lord of the mode of ignorance. Ultimately, the material creation, it is but a temporary manifestation meant to give the chance of liberation to the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material world. And one who develops the mode of goodness under the protection of Lord Vishnu has the greatest chance of being liberated by following the Vaishnava principles and thus being promoted to the kingdom of God, no more to return to this miserable material world. Text 40. So this is the goal of life, and this is what has been forgotten by all leaders and even the sectarian religions. They've forgotten about this goal of life. And they're all trying to say, our way, no other way. You're not worshiping God, we're worshiping God. They've lost the ability to see that there cannot be any more than one supreme being. It's right there in the dictionary, sir. What is the definition of God? The supreme being. If there's more than one supreme being competing, neither one of them are God. There can only be one supreme being. There can only be one source of everything. He may have different names. He may be known to different degrees by different people, by different cultures, but the thing is the same. Text 40. Who can describe completely the prowess of Vishnu? Vishnu is expansion of Krishna. Even the scientist who might have counted the particles of the atoms of the universe cannot do so, because it is Vishnu only who in his form of Trivikram moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet, Satyaloka, up to the neutral stage of the 3 modes of material nature, and all planets were moved. Purport. The highest scientific advancement of the material scientists is atomic energy. But no material scientist is able to count the particles of atoms contained in the whole universe. But even if one were able to count such atomic particles, or were able to roll up the sky like one's bedding. Even then, one would be unable to estimate the extent of the prowess and energy of the Supreme Lord. He is known as Trivikram because once, in his incarnation of Vamana, he expanded his leg beyond the highest planetary system, Satyaloka, and reached the neutral state of the modes of nature, called the covering of the material world. There are 7 layers of matter covering the material sky, and the Lord could penetrate even those coverings. With his toe, he made a hole through which the water of the causal ocean filters into the material sky, and the current is known as the sacred Ganges, which purifies the planets of the 3 worlds. In other words, no one is equal to the transcendentally powerful Vishnu. He is omnipotent, and no one is equal to or greater than him. Text 41. Neither I nor the sages, nor all the sages born before you know fully the omnipotent personality of Godhead. So what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Shesha, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 1,000 mouths. Purport. The omnipotent personality of Godhead has primarily 3 potencies, namely the internal, external, and marginal potencies, with unlimited expansion of these 3 energies. As such, the expansions of these potencies can never be calculated by anyone. Indeed, even the personality of Godhead himself, as the incarnation of Shesha, cannot estimate these potencies, although he has been describing them continuously with his 1,000 mouths. So this is describing what we call in Sanskrit language Dainya. Dainya means humility, but not the ordinary kind of humility that makes you sit over in the corner and not do anything because you think you're incapable of doing anything. Not that kind of Dainya. Dainya means real humility. As you come closer to God, as you understand more and more about God, you can never understand everything. Not even Krishna can understand everything about himself, because his potencies are always expanding. They're not like material potencies, which over time diminish. All of us know, especially all of us who are over 70. Anybody over 70 in this room? Yeah, that's what I thought. But even if you're over 50, you're beginning to get the message. Even if you're over 40, you're beginning to get the message. And up to that time, oh, sweet bird of youth, you can't understand it. But then when one of our loved ones dies, then we understand it. For a few minutes, during the funeral ceremony, and maybe for a few days after that. And then it goes away again. Until you get to this age. Now just try to understand who Prabhupada was. He came out of India for the first time, 70 years old. Actually he was 69, but he got his birthday on the boat. Came over on a boat, not on an airplane. Freighter, little cabin in a freighter. 70 years old. No money, literally. 40 rupees. At that time, 40 rupees were worth about $4. No family, no friends, no financial backing, no government, nothing. Just him and 200 sets of the 3 volumes of the Srimad-Bhagavatam he had cobbled together in India. That's it. And a bag full of granola. More, very. He thought, I may not be able to eat anything over there, so I have to have something to eat for a few days. He was thinking like that. And then when he was in the boat and he saw the skyline of Boston, he said, oh my God. And he wrote this wonderful prayer and begging Krishna for mercy and saying, I can't do this. Only if you do it will it be done. That's full humility. Not the kind of humility that makes you not do anything, but the realization that you are insignificant, but God is all significant. And if you become connected with Him and do His will, what does Jesus say? Not my, but thy will, O Lord. It's in every scripture. That we're not saying anything new. We're saying it connected to the truth without changing it, without diluting it, without bringing in other topics to make it seem like there's some competition. Like you can become God, or you are God, or nobody can become God, or at the end it's just void. Okay, so if you can't prove either one, which you can make an argument, I just said that you can't understand God completely, and it's Bhagavatam saying the same thing. So then why are we doing this? Because the promise is eternal, blissful life of knowledge. And the promise of atheism is void. Okay, take your choice. You can't prove either one. You got to do something. Why not do this? Text 42. But anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is His expansion of diverse energy. Now we just heard that no one can understand, even somebody who counts the atoms in the universe. So it's a fact that no one can know God completely. But the truth is that we can know Him sufficiently if He agrees to enlighten us sufficiently enough to go back to the spiritual world and be with Him. That much we can know. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is His expansion of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly enter into the realm of the science of Godhead. The whole materialistic world, based on the conception of the material body as the self, is ignorant of the science of God. The materialist is always busy working for the welfare of the material body, not only his own, but also those of his children, kinsmen, community men, countrymen, etc. The materialists have many branches of philanthropic and altruistic activities from a political, national, and international angle of vision, but none of the field work can go beyond the jurisdiction of the misconception of identifying the material body with the spirit soul. Unless, therefore, one is saved from the wrong conception of the body and the soul, there is no knowledge of Godhead. And unless there is knowledge of God, all advancement of material civilization, however dazzling, should be considered a failure. (43 to 45). O Narada, Although the potencies of the Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, I still know how He acts through His Yogamaya potencies. And similarly, the potencies of the Lord are also known to you, to the all-powerful Shiva, to the great king of the atheist family, namely Prahlad Maharaj, to Swayambhuva Manu, his wife Shatarupa, and his sons and daughters, namely Priyavrata, Uttanapad, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. Those are men and women. Note. To Prachanibarhi, Ribu, and Anga, the father of Vena, and to Maharaj Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Muchakunda, Maharaj Janaka, Gadhi, Raghu, Ambarisha, Sagara, Gaya, Nahusha, Mandata, Alarka, Shatadanu, Anu, Rantideva, Bhishma, Bali, Amurtaraya, Dilipa, Sarabhi, Utkanta, Shibi, Devala, Pipalada, Saraswata, Uddhava, Parashara, Burishena, Vibhishana, Hanuman, Shukadev Goswami, Arjuna, Arishtena, Vidura, Shrutadeva, etc. Because we are all surrendered souls. We know how the Lord acts through His potencies. Purport. All the great devotees of the Lord mentioned above, who flourished in the past or flourish in the present, and all the devotees of the Lord who will come in the future, are aware of the different potencies of the Lord, including the potencies of His name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, personality, etc. And how do they know? Certainly it is not by mental speculation, nor by any attempt by dint of limited instruments of knowledge. By the limited instruments of knowledge, either the senses or the material instruments like microscopes and telescopes, one cannot even fully know the Lord's material potencies, which are manifested before our eyes. For example, the greatest scientists of the world are trying to reach the moon, the nearest of the planets, but they have no ascertainable clue as to how to reach it. And there are millions and billions of other planets, far, far beyond the scientists' calculation. But these are only the manifestations of the Lord's material energy. What can the scientists hope to know of the spiritual potency of the Lord by such material efforts? Mental speculators, by adding some dozens of ifs and maybes, cannot aid the advancement of knowledge. On the contrary, such mental speculations will only end in despair by dismissing the case abruptly and declaring the non-existence of God. The sane person, therefore, ceases to speculate on subjects beyond the jurisdiction of his tiny brain, and as a matter of course, he tries to learn to surrender under the Supreme Lord, who can alone lead one to the platform of real knowledge. In the Upanishads, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be known simply by working very hard and taxing the good brain. Nor can He be known simply by mental speculation and jugglery of words. The Lord is knowable only by one who is a surrendered soul. Herein, Brahmaji, the greatest of all material living beings, acknowledges this truth. Therefore, the fruitless spoiling of energy by pursuing the path of experimental knowledge must be given up. One should gain knowledge by surrendering unto the Lord and by acknowledging the authority of the persons mentioned herein. The Lord is unlimited, and by the grace of Yoga Maya helps the surrendered soul to know Him proportionately with the advance of one's surrender. 46. Surrendered souls, even from groups leading sinful lives, such as women, the laborer class, the mountaineers, and the Shabbaras, or even the birds or beasts, can also know about the science of Godhead and become liberated from the clutches of the illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in their footsteps in devotional service. Purport. Sometimes there are inquiries as to how one can surrender unto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, the Lord asked Arjuna to surrender unto Him, and therefore persons unwilling to do so question where God is and to whom they should surrender. The answer to such questions or inquiries is given herein very properly. The personality of Godhead may not be present before one's eyes, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualifications for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. In the material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification also. Without this, one is unfit for such service. But in the devotional service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. I'll repeat that, just in case you didn't get it the first time. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. If one likes, he can surrender immediately, without delay. And that begins his spiritual life. The bona fide representative of God is as good as God Himself, or in other words, the loving representative of the Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. And if one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can also understand the science of God and can also become like the transcendental pure devotee of the Lord, and thus get his liberation back to Godhead, back home for eternal happiness. What does it mean to be honest? What does it mean to be honest? What does it mean to be sincere? Does it mean to always say what you're going to do? It's part of it. Pay your bills on time? Maybe. It means when you hear something that's true, you can accept it. You can understand. When you hear something that's true, if someone's honest and sincere, and that's all it takes. It doesn't make any difference what your education is. It doesn't make any difference how expert you are at whatever you do. This is all it takes, is honesty, sincerity, and freedom from envy of others. When you're envious and you see another person doing better than you want to bring him down and take his position. So if you can get just a glimpse of that freedom from envy, if you wish other people well, and when you see them doing well, you, very nice. And you become happy seeing other people doing well. Then you can hear. And this is what Jesus meant when he said, "Let those who have ears hear." It means honesty, sincerity, and freedom from envy. That's what it means. And it's not excluded to one person. Everyone can have this. Everyone has this. Everyone. So realization of the science of Godhead and relief from the unnecessary, useless struggle for existence are not at all difficult for the willing candidate. But they are very difficult for persons who are not surrendered souls, but who simply speculate without any profit. Just read the headlines of the latest news. Will such and such do this? Scientists say perhaps. I read one, this is far out. I read this myself. Some scientists have concluded that there's not actually any reason why the universe should exist. Wow, that's far out. I never thought of that before. You must be really cool. You must be really smart. You said something that never been said before and I can't understand a word of it. I better study you. And what do you come out from that study? Goose egg, zero, nothing, confusion. I remember once when I was going to UCLA in 1967, graduated in 68. It was somewhere between 64 and 68. I can't remember which year it was. Alan Watts came to give a lecture. So that was the flavor of the month, or flavor of the year, Alan Watts. And everyone was into this philosophy that if someone spoke to you in a way that you couldn't understand, they must be really high, and you have to study that person so that you could understand something. So I went to see him, along with a few other people, and we listened to his lecture, and sure enough, on cue, couldn't understand a word he said. It was like gobbledygook or something. So then he invited anybody who was actually, seriously interested to come back. So I went. So there he was with a few of us in the green room, and he started talking. And within 5 minutes, he brought out a flask out of his pocket, right here, and he started drinking. It was, I think it was, well, I don't know what it was, but it was spirits. And within 15 or 20 minutes, he was soused. He was so drunk that the words would flood like that. And then I understood, this guy is a charlatan. He's a complete hoax. And I just walked out, and I felt liberated. And it wasn't that long after that I started hearing things that made more sense. And gradually, in 1972, I got 2 of Prabhupada's books from different sources within a week of each other, and I was living on top of a mountain in a town with 100 people. No chance. And as soon as I looked at those 2 books and realized they were from the same author, tears came out of my eyes, I shook, my hair stood up, and that was it. And I never looked back. That was 46 years ago. That's the power of the pure devotee of the Lord. And anyone can get it. Don't think, but me, I'm just this, I'm that. Doesn't make any difference. Text 47. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the Supreme Enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and fear. He is completely consciousness. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter. Uncontaminated and without distinctions, he is the principle of the primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, and before whom the illusory energy, being ashamed, does not stand. Purport. The Supreme Enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman, or the Summum Bonum, because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realization is the first step. Due to his distinction from the illusory conception of material existence, in other words, impersonal Brahman is a feature of the Absolute, distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, darkness. But the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in the light, and thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of the Brahman light, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Summum Bonum, or the ultimate source of everything. Therefore, meeting the personality of Godhead includes the realization of the impersonal Brahman as realized at first in contrast with material inebriety. The personality of Godhead is the third step of Brahman realization. As explained in the first canto, one must understand all three features of the Absolute: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Pratibodha matram is a conception just opposite to that of material existence. In matter, there are material miseries, and thus, in the first realization of Brahman, there is a negation of such material inebrieties, and there is a feeling of eternal existence, distinct from the pangs of birth and death, disease and old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Soul of everything, and therefore in Him the supreme conception of affection is realized. This conception of affection is due to the relationship of soul to soul. A father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between the son and the father. But that sort of affection in the material world is full of inebriety. When the personality of Godhead is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of the affectionate relationship. He is not the object of affection because of some material tinges of body and mind, but he is the full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all living entities because he is the Supersoul, or Paramatma, within everyone's heart. In the liberated state of affairs, the full-fledged affection for the Lord is awakened. As such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without any fear of its being broken, as we experience here in this material world. The relationship with the Lord is never broken. Then there is no grief and no fear. Such happiness is inexplicable by words. and there can be no possibility of generating such happiness by fruitive activities. Being spontaneous, such happiness cannot be acquired through carefully arranged fruitive sacrifices. But we must also know that this happiness, the unbroken happiness, exchanged with the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead, as described in this verse, transcends the impersonal conception of the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, the description is more or less a negation of the material conception of things, but it is not a denial of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Herein, the Lord's transcendental senses are affirmed by the word shuddham, uncontaminated, which indicates that the senses of the personality of Godhead are not made of material elements, but are all transcendental, free from any contamination of material identification. And the liberated souls also possess spiritual senses. Both the Supreme Lord and the liberated souls must have senses. Otherwise, there could not be any reciprocation of unhampered spiritual happiness exchanged between them in spontaneous, unbroken joy. All the senses, both of the Lord and of the devotees, are without material contamination. They are so because they are beyond the material cause and effects, as clearly mentioned herein, sadasata param. The illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord and His transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief, but here it is clearly said that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. There is a distinct difference between the material and the spiritual senses, and one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. The senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance. In every way, the authorities have recommended purification of the senses from material conception. In the material world, the senses are manipulated for individual and personal satisfaction. Whereas in the spiritual world, the senses are properly used for the purpose for which they were originally meant, namely the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Such sensual activities are natural, and therefore sense gratification there is uninterrupted and unbroken by material contamination because the senses are spiritually purified. And such satisfaction of the senses is equally shared by the transcendental reciprocators. Since the activities are unlimited and constantly increasing, there is no scope for material attempts or artificial arrangements. Such happiness of transcendental quality is called Brahmasokyam, which will be clearly described in the 5th canto. We're on the 2nd canto. 48. How many verses are there in this?
52.
52.
And the report to 49 is almost 2 pages.
I think we're going to stop here. What is it? Yeah, 7:45. I have to pack and get ready to travel. So I'm going to stop here, even though we're so close to the end of this chapter. But I'm going to read it tomorrow night in Dallas, 6:30. You can tune in and we can all be together again through the medium of the pixels, which represent the form, And just like it says that the paintings and the photos of the Lord and the devotees, the deities, especially the deities of the Lord, are non-different. So now you can carry around the Lord in your pocket. What's in your wallet?
Exactly.
What's in your wallet? I think we got something here. We're on to something. We're on to something. What's in your wallet? That's too good to let go.
Yeah, you couldn't let go.
Huh? Couldn't let that one go. No way. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll ask for reflections. Anybody who's brave enough to say something after those purports. I mean, those purports were, even among Prabhupada's purports, extraordinary. Extraordinary. Krishna has arranged for all of us to be together tonight, to be able to hear those purports together in this mood, surrendered mood, or at least inquisitive. Inquisitive enough to get it. Something got through. Okay. The ball is in your court. Yes, Hannah.
It's back in your court.
Wow. Yes, Krishna Kripa. One of the 50-year-olds. Or now he's 60.
61, yeah.
61. There you go.
But, no, I was just appreciating how Prabhupada not only corrects most people's understanding of this, but he does it in such simple terms that it's graspable. You can actually grasp it at any level.
Yes.
You can take it to any depth that you
Yes.
would like to. It's just marvelous.
Yeah, actually, my experience over 46 years is that these literatures are transcendental. Like, how is it possible that I'm reading? I don't know how many times I've read this. I can't count. And each time I read it, especially with receptive souls, it just flowers and keeps blooming. And then when you hear that in the spiritual world, that's what it's like. I heard Gopi Pranadana, but Deva Prasad and I were packing together, and we were listening to Gopi Pranadana Prabhu's lectures, because both of us do this daily, hear him every day. He's like amazing. And he was giving this understanding to us that if we keep hearing, it's not that, okay, now we know that, now we can go on. It's the same words, and they just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. It's not an academic thing. Okay, I know that topic. I got an A+ in that subject. Now I'm going to go to another one. It's not like that. This is different. This is transcendental knowledge. It's real transcendental knowledge, and it's always increasing. Every time we read it, we can get something more. Every time. And it'll keep happening if you keep reading and keep trying to understand. It just opens up. And eventually, when you look at the deity in the temple, you'll be stunned, because you will see more than you saw before. And Gopi was saying today that just like Krishna, even Krishna, when he comes to this material world, which is within time and space, there are certain laws that govern time and space in the material world. And Krishna agrees by his own sweet will to come into this world and accept those laws, although he can break them anytime he wants, and he does. He sometimes does things completely, He'll stand up as a 7-year-old boy and hold a mountain over his head, like an umbrella. Hello? That's never been done before. It never will be done before either, till the next time he comes around. And yet, the devotees into the material world, they have to wait until he gets to their place to see him. But in the spiritual world, there is no time and space. He can be everywhere at the same time. He can be present before you and acting individually to you and satisfying you fully. At the same time, he's doing the same thing to everyone else, and everyone else will just think that he's being with me. That's called omnipotent. That's called infinite dimensional. The spiritual world is infinite dimensional. We're living in 3 dimensions. There are more dimensions. There are universes with more dimensions. But the spiritual world is infinite dimensional. Then, just like here, once you've done something, you like it a lot, you can't do it again. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work like that. I'm talking about the same event. You liked it so much, I'd like to eat that ice cream cone again at that moment, because it was just right, and it was just the right temperature and the right flavor, my favorite, and then, oh yeah. And then I can't do it again. And then you can keep it in your mind for a little while. Yeah, I remember that. I'm doing it. It was so nice. But then even that, right? But even that fades over time. But in the spiritual world, if you want to redo it, you can redo it. If you want to taste it forever, you can taste it forever. And then the next time, you can taste that on top of the other forever, and it just keeps increasing forever. I mean, you can't put this in your mind. You can't put this you can't understand this completely with your intelligence. But the more you hear this, and the more you purify your senses and your mind by the proper living of spiritual laws, then you can understand it a little more, until you understand enough of it that you're finished with this place. Hey, this place is a distant second, a real distant second from what you can taste, just like we're tasting right now at this moment. A sweetness that you cannot duplicate from hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, from hearing about Krishna and his transcendental energies and his pure devotees. I rest my case. And only because of material conceptions can we not taste it fully and surrender. So therefore, the Bhagavatam gradually corrects our misconceptions, our material conceptions, and replaces them or uncovers the spiritual conceptions that are already there, which make us keep looking and looking and looking. And then at one point, the supersoul in the heart becomes convinced, oh, this person is serious. This person is wanting to know the reality. And then gradually he reveals more and more to us from within the heart. And therefore, when Brahma was explaining the creation to Narada, he told him that Krishna came before me in the beginning when I performed the penance that was needed, that he was asking me to do. And when I had done it, and he actually appeared before me and shook my hand, well done. Here I am. What you've been looking for. Then he told Brahma, the penance that you did with devotion is my heart. That's where that penance lies, in my heart. So if you want me, then do penance, but not out of fear or out of necessity, out of love, out of devotion, pure devotion. And that's how to see God face to face, literally. It doesn't happen instantaneously. It can. Krishna can do anything. But from our side, as we heard, remember I stopped in that one sentence and I said it again and again. I said, actually, surrender's up to us. It's not up to anyone else. But Krishna is so kind. He comes into the world. He brings the Bhagavatam. He teaches people how to fashion his form in material elements so we can see him. And then he teaches us the art, the spiritual art of offering things to him that he likes and pleasing him, pleasing his senses. And that is real sense gratification. Pleasing the senses of the Lord with our senses gives us pure sense gratification. And even a drop of that is enough to quench an ocean of thirst. So, I am at your feet, your servants. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi. Haribol. Now one more.